On their return to base, the men were not given their usual reception by their commanding officers.
I was told to go to my room and that I was not to go to the mess for tea, that all my meals would be brought to me in my cabin. I wasn't to talk to anyone at all until I had gone back to the Wing Commander's office the following morning at 9 o'clock.
We were met and we were separated immediately.
The man that interviewed me the following morning was in plain clothes. I had no idea what his rank was. He also told me that the objects had been picked up on radar and that they had a ground speed of 600 miles an hour. I was surprised that he said miles an hour and not knots, but it perhaps indicated that he was not an aviator. We were asked, incidentally, to draw what we saw, and I think I just drew 3 ellipses and 3 dots in a triangle representing the direct vision panel.
As well as filling out an official report, Michael Swinney recorded the incident in his logbook, which he keeps to this day.
I console myself by saying that know I saw something, and thank goodness there was somebody else to corroborate what I had seen. I've often been asked, what do you think they are? And I have to answer, I really haven't got the vaguest idea. I wish I had.
Today, the reports have vanished without explanation. The only document that remains is the flight squadron's record book. Michael Swinney was told that their actual reports into the incident had been shredded after 5 years, in line with government policy. During the course of 1952, many similar incidents were reported, and the government responded by setting up a new secret project.
Now, this project has run out of a number of different offices over the years, most famously room 801 in the old Metropole Hotel on Northumberland Avenue.
The main unit of the British government charged with investigations in the early 1950s was the Deputy Directorate of Intelligence, Technical, DDI Tech. There were several people employed full-time, despite denials at that time by the Air Ministry that anyone was employed in investigations, but apparently there was a huge map on the wall with coloured drawing pins.
Only credible reports of flying saucers were sent to room 801. In response, UFO investigators were dispatched to interview the witnesses. Although their existence was denied at the time, their findings form some of the most incredible documents ever published by the British government. One report sent to the government's secret UFO headquarters in room 801 was from a 16-year-old girl in Somerset. The files revealed that from the window of her parents' home, she had witnessed a strange craft that emitted an eerie, glowing light.
I said to the family I'd sent off a letter, and they said, oh, well, nothing will come of it. No, that's nothing. And then I was most surprised to get a letter back saying that they were going to send a gentleman to see me. I felt quite chuffed, to be honest, that somebody was coming to see. Anyway, this chap turned up, and to my disappointment, he didn't have a uniform on. I just thought he would be from the RAF and would be in uniform, but he wasn't.
I think it's quite interesting to speculate that when somebody from the Ministry of Defence perhaps knocked on someone's door and said, I've come here to talk to you about your UFO sighting, and I'm sure these people would be smartly dressed, probably in dark suits, and it seems to me that this is the genesis of the so-called Men in Black.
I can't remember if he had identification. I think he must have done, because I'm quite sure my mother wouldn't have let me see a strange man without being pretty sure he was somebody. But he, if I remember rightly, he wore a dark suit, he came in a dark car.
The mysterious man from the ministry proceeded to question the young Henson about what she thought she had seen.
He wanted to talk to me about the thing, what I'd seen. I described it, and he decided he would come back that night to try and see it. And of course it was a cloudy night, so he couldn't see it. So he came back, I think, 2 or 3 nights in a row to try and see it. But it was cloudy each time, by which time I was feeling a bit of a fool, to be honest. But anyway, he said, well, not to worry, but he said not to say anything to anybody else, because wasn't quite sure whether there was anything there, and I didn't want to feel a fool, naturally. So he said, you know, don't mention it to your school friends or anything, and when you're 16, in that time, you didn't.
These investigations were carried out by Air Force special investigators from the Provost and Security Services. Now, the Provost and Security Services are the RAF police. Their special duties include counterintelligence.
Well, I don't suppose that we've tried to silence anyone about UFOs, but then, having said that, back in those Cold War days, there probably was a request, perhaps, not to talk about things too much. I think it's just the culture of the times.
I didn't hear anything for some time, and then eventually a letter came to say that I had discovered, if I remember rightly, a new planet, which I was well chuffed about, but they gave it a number. And I remember thinking, why didn't they call it after me? Because they call other planets after people who discovered them. Why give mine a number?
It may have been easy for the ministry to dismiss the claims of a schoolgirl, but it would not be so easy to pull the wool over the eyes of the royal family. In the mid-1950s, the Duke of Edinburgh began taking a keen interest in the subject of UFOs. Fortunately for him, his personal equerry, Sir Peter Horsley, was also a high-ranking military man who had access to some remarkable contacts and astonishing information.
He was at one time investigating UFO reports in the main operations centre at the Ministry of Defence as part of his duties, and he gave some of these reports to the Duke of Edinburgh.
Knowing how the household works, if Prince Philip wanted some information, the natural chap to ask would have been his equerry. And so he may have said to Peter Horsley, find out what you can about these UFOs, for heaven's sake. I keep reading about them, which he would then have done. He did have an interest in this. I wouldn't say it was a consuming one or a permanent one, but he asked 1 or 2 questions, which of course got prominence really out of proportion to their actual worth, simply because he was the Duke of Edinburgh.
Horsley, in his role as Deputy Chief of Strike Command, had his finger on the clear trigger. One day a colleague by the name of General Martin telephoned him and asked him to go to the Chelsea home of a curious woman by the name of Mrs. Markham. She was playing host to a Mr. Janus, a man who had something of the utmost importance that needed to be discussed with Horsley in person. Intrigued, he left the palace on a wet and misty night, taking a path that was to lead to an extraordinary encounter.